Hey there, everyone. Today I know I'm making two videos today. It's pretty unusual, but I kind of wanted to just discuss a particular member of the Deleuze community and my opinions on him because he comes up a lot. Okay, like I'm just gonna be blunt. He comes up a lot, and there's a lot of complaints about him whenever I do interact with him, whether it be in my own Discord server or it be in Discord servers I moderate or just other Discord servers in general, right? And this is not gonna be like I'm going to analyze every piece of drama kind of shit because I'm too much of an old fart to give a shit about every stupid little piece of drama that happens on the internet, right? Like I really don't care that much about like this kind of stupid shit, but I do want to kind of like give my opinion on some things, right? So I want to explain first what happened, right? So I was invited to a stream to watch, right? And this stream was about Brooks debating some guy named, I think is like Stephen Burns or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know who this guy is. I've literally only heard of him and the guy who was hosting the live stream today. Like, I don't give that much of a shit about this kind of inner drama crap on YouTube. Yeah, can you tell I don't watch philosophy videos on YouTube? There's a reason for that. But I just, I watched this and I was thinking to myself, oh my god, what is he getting himself into now, right? And it turns out that it was not Brooks who was the problem, right? Brooks was addressing some guy who I would describe as like basically some kind of like college professor who managed to get lucky with the algorithm and is using it as kind of like a source of income. I think would be a polite way to describe the guy who he was quote unquote debating, right? And I would like to use this for a moment to remind people that the debate format is kind of questionable with how useful it is for just communicating philosophy in general. Like, not only are you like for example, the guy's channel who this was hosted on, right? His name's like Sunday something, I don't know. If you watch these channels, you probably know who I'm talking about. I don't really care that much. I'm not going to be watching this guy because I just don't have interest in that kind of stuff. I care more about machines than I care about what some guy's opinion about what somebody on the internet is saying about Deleuze. I was watching this. I was looking at his content, and like, I just think that like, so it's important to point out to people when certain writers or creators are wrong about something, right? And I think that it's important to, call out people who say incorrect things in their videos. I think that this can actually even serve as an educational kind of content in of itself, but I don't think it's like inherently educational. I don't think that, debunking is the correct way to actually educate people, right? And the reason why is because you're not giving people the full picture about what the source material actually is. You're just kind of explaining what they have wrong about it or your own perspective on it, right? I think that you kind of have to have a positive thesis in order to kind of like explain what you believe, what you want to move forward, right? And the real reason why debate content is popular is twofold. One, it has kind of a historical basis, which, reminder guys, debates on the internet started with I know there were other debates, but like a big part of what made it popular was the atheist skeptic shit, right? And I don't believe that perpetuating the subculture that created that movement is really a good idea in how we essentially, explore like a Deleuzian Guattarian politics in the modern framework. Like, I just don't think that's really the right approach. I don't think we should be going around and just debating people. I mean, don't they say in What is Philosophy that debate is basically a stupid fucking waste of time? I don't remember. But in my opinion, debate is absolutely a stupid fucking waste of time, right? Because, like, it's not educational. It's about the emotions that are produced. And something I really noticed that the streamer was also pointing out was that the person that was debating them or whatever, they were making a bunch of defensive moves. They were not focused on the content or the material, right? And that's really important because, one, I will say this, what Stephen Burns kind of gave me impression of was he was very smart with how he navigates essentially his brand, right? And this is something that I feel that chat didn't catch up on. See, I didn't know who this Stephen Burns guy was. I just know that, you know, Chucklefuck over here likes to make a lot of comments that, you know, he tends to be aggressive towards certain people in the community, which I don't think is really a productive behavior. I don't understand why he feels it's necessary to be like this, especially with certain figures. Like, at the end of the day, I look at it like, okay, if somebody's wrong, right, I should produce a critique. Like, I've made videos on my channel, like, I don't go and like I made videos on my channel that, for example, criticize what other people have said. Now, mind you, these are books. They're not like podcasters that I'm criticizing, but still, like, the same kind of idea applies, right? Where, you know, the problem is that, like, when I make those videos, I try to present, you know, something educational on top of it, right? It's not just, oh, Alan Sokol is wrong about postmodernism. It's that this is what Guattari really meant when he was saying that quote from Chaosmosis, right? And it was an attempt, or at least an attempt to understand it, like a genuine attempt to understand it. Because when I made that video, I was relatively new to the subject, right? And I think this is a good time to remind people, right, that first off, like, you know, a lot of the people who are talking about these things aren't experts. Like, I'm not an expert. I'm not like a trained magician in understanding, like, you know, schizoanalysis or whatever. I got into this because I went crazy in 2020 and 2021, and Félix Guattari was a major part of how I managed to, you know, recover and make sense of that. So to me, when I say in my YouTube channel that I am just a guy who likes Félix Guattari, or I'm a guy who just likes Guattari, I mean that. Like, I'm not like some sort of like special guy. I'm not like some sort of super cool educator or whatever. I'm just a guy who just read this shit and it really helped me, right? And that's the kind of image I want people to kind of go forward with. And, you know, through that, I want to be like as honest about my abilities and my mistakes as possible. I mean, there's videos on my channel that I made when I was schizophrenic that I haven't really gotten around to like correcting, right, and making fixes to it. And unlike someone like Stephen Burns, who just, you know, rushed something out because he wanted to get something out, which was, you know, kind of like his major, probably the biggest failure in the entire so-called debate, that he, you know, would say something like that. But at the same time, like, for me, right, it's just that, you know, I'm a learning person and I'm developing as an individual, and I make mistakes, and, you know, I have to do this while doing a bunch of other stuff for my life in order to sustain myself. I mean, I only make, what, basically like $35 a month on this thing. Oh shit, I accidentally hit the villager. I didn't want to do that. Yeah, I only make about like $36 a month on this shit. So, like, you know, it's not paying my bills, that's for sure. So, you know, my motivation isn't, you know, bills. My motivation is to try to learn this stuff and try to say, hey, this is cool. And I think as a result, my content is overall all right. You know, I don't think it's like the best material. I would definitely say that if you want to learn Guattari, Schizoanalytic Onion is definitely the channel I point to. And I understand that. You know, I understand my role in sort of like the Deleuze Guattari education discourse. Like, my role is to educate people in such a way enough where they get interested in something and say, hey, I want to learn more about this guy. Where can I learn more about this guy? And that's what I'm really good at. I'm really good at connecting people to where they can learn more about this guy. And, you know, I think that's you know, I think that's an important role. I think that's an important way to be. Now, the way that Brooks handles it is a little different, and I'm quite critical of kind of his approach, right? See, I am, the complaint that I am always being given is that he's very aggressive, right? Now, mind you, again, I don't follow all of this content myself personally, because I really don't give a single flying fuck, okay? Like, I'm sorry if this is like your magnum opus or something, but it's just not that interesting to me, okay? You're not that interesting to my poor soul. I apologize. But you know, to me personally, right, I think it's a problem when I'm hearing about the same person every single time somebody has a complaint about the community. It's the same exact person or it's the same exact community, right? I think that when you reach that point, something is kind of an issue with how one approaches their political project, right, or their educational project, or whatever Brooks is trying to do. He said he wants to create an emancipatory politics, and I want to talk about this, because I want to make my project is very political too, but I think that the way that Brooks approaches his project is limiting his ability to actually achieve something that emancipates anybody, right? And the biggest problem is like, let's talk about, for example, why I got banned from DGQC, because he thought he was really showing up something when he decided to tell everybody about how I got banned from DGQC with a unanimous vote. And I'll just say this: if I wasn't banned from DGQC with an unanimous vote, I would be pretty surprised, because my behavior was, I was intentionally trolling the server. Like, of course I got banned. Like, you're not really like proving anything deep with that, or that's not really the jab you think it is, because like I intentionally was like acting that way because I was pissed off at the community. But the reason why I was pissed off at the community, I think, is worth discussing, right? So essentially I came into the server, the first time I came to the server, which I'll talk about in more detail later, because I think that's another important point I want to discuss. When I came into the server twice, once in 2021 and I believe once in 2023, right? And in 2023, I came in there and, I felt like I wanted to give it another chance, because the first time I went in there, I was schizophrenic and paranoid. And I was way more clear in my head when I went there in 2023. And I kind of expected from a server called the Les Guattari Quarantine Collective that the people who are, listening to this material and talking about it and interested in the community would also be interested in Deleuze, and that was a mistake on my part. Like, these people definitely did not give a single flying fuck about Deleuze, and definitely not Guattari, right? And, that's always kind of upsetting, because my role, I think, in the discourse is to remind people that, no, actually, Guattari was a really important part of the picture, and you can't just ignore him just because he's a little weird, right? There's a reason why Deleuze looked at him and said, yeah, you're my man, I'm gonna work with you, right? And I think that reason was because he provides an incredible amount of value with his unique insights, right? And what made me actually go over the edge and start saying, fuck this place, I'm going to just troll you to hell, was members of the community making fun of one of the translators of Guattari for translating Guattari, and having to kind of like struggle with, getting by. I was trying to explain to these people that, hey, getting a philosophy degree is maybe not like the best way to do philosophy, right? Like, it might work for some people, but like, I think that we should stop looking at it like, oh, we need to get a degree and we need to figure out how to get money out of this, right? And more so like or not even money, but like a career off of this, right? And more so think like, how do we bring this knowledge to kind of like a wider audience? How do we like break from the how do you call it? Like, break from that system, because quite frankly, philosophy students aren't taken seriously. They haven't been taken seriously in 50 years. I mean, fucking Richard Dawkins says in The Selfish Gene that philosophers basically act like Darwin didn't exist. Like, that's how little people outside of philosophy take philosophy seriously, right? And that was 50 years ago. So imagine what they think now, right? And they were making fun of somebody who directly contributes towards the actual literature on Guattari by doing translations, because he's he's struggling with having to work wagey jobs. And you'd think that somebody who is into this material, who like understands Deleuze and Guattari and understands like the kind of politics that they're advocating for and things like that, would actually kind of like not only respect that person's struggle, but also appreciate it and say, wow, that really does suck. Wow, I didn't realize it was that bad. And to me personally, right, I feel that if you're trying to do a political project with your work, right, if you're trying to make an emancipatory project, you should be focusing on what the machine produces. You're a fucking Deleuzian, right? Think about what your machine is producing. Your machine is producing a bunch of people who are not talking about Deleuze. Oh shit, is that a fucking trident? It better not be. But you're not producing a bunch of people who talk about Deleuze. You're producing a bunch of people who are talking about stupid fucking drama about some guy who clearly is just some like washed up fucking college professor who found another way to make a buck. Like, yeah, criticize him. Don't get me wrong. Say, hey, this isn't good philosophy. But, like, don't make that the fixation of the discourse, right? Make the fixation of the discourse, what do we do with Deleuze and Guattari, and how does it apply to the modern world, right? And I think that's, like, and I understand, so I want to say, like, I'm not telling you to babysit your Discord server, right? But I am saying that maybe if you observe that your community, acts like this, right, and treats people who can contribute directly to the literature like dog shit, right? Maybe you should think twice about what you're actually producing as a community, right? Like what is the purpose of this? And that kind of goes down to what the criticisms that I keep hearing about. Now, I'm not going to cite anything too specific because again, this isn't intended to be a call out video. This is intended to be like, this is what I hear from people, right? And I hear two main things. One, Brooks doesn't seem to understand Deleuze. I hear this quite a bit. And look, I don't have the time or the bandwidth to check every goddamn thing that he says about Deleuze. I'm not even a Deleuze scholar. I focus on Guattari, and those are two different authors. And some people might assume, well, if you read Guattari, you know Deleuze. No. Actually, no. That's totally incorrect, right? They work together, and there is definitely intersection, obviously, through the works that they published together. But there's also quite a lot of differences. Like, I could not tell you about, a lot of the details of things that Deleuze wrote on his own, like his analysis of different philosophers. Hell, I don't even feel confident about talking about something like difference and repetition, right? And that makes sense when you think to yourself, okay, this is a schizophrenic who got into Guattari because Guattari ran a crazy mental hospital that kind of gave him a sliver of hope in life, as opposed to, oh, I'm here to learn like big book bullshit, right? So, again, this is not me saying, oh, you don't know Deleuze. This is me saying people have told me this multiple times, and he's aggressive about it. He's very aggressive. And, there's a time and place to be aggressive, but we should be always cautious with aggression. And the reason why we should always be cautious with aggression is because aggression is a risky behavior, right? Sometimes aggression can win some real battles, but at the same time, aggression can also lead us down some real trouble. And I think part of the reason why we are observing this kind of behavior in these kind of communities that are interested in debunking bad philosophy, right? And again, we should be calling out bad readings. We should be calling out people who don't read the books. We should be calling out people who are miseducating their audience. But, like, we shouldn't be making it a game about who to battle, right? You have to understand the topology of the world you're working with. You have to look at the machines, right? We're in a culture of online communications where, like, what's important to people is like a sort of, how do I put it? Like a sort of cinema, right? A sort of theater about, like, ooh, well, like, these people are cool and these people are are dumb and this is based and this is cringe. Like, that's the culture that we're coming from, and you really need to take that into consideration when you're gonna, go in these firefights with people. Because again, if your goal is to produce an emancipatory politics, you're not producing it at all. And I think that can be observed by anybody who goes, and maybe things have really changed in the DGQC server. Maybe they're going around and organizing, like, serious movements towards, like, minorities and queer politics and stuff. And again, that's another thing that I would like to really kind of emphasize. Like, I'm not trying to, like, give him, like, a bill that he has to pay in terms of, like, his, like, freaking, like, politics or whatever. That's not really the goal of what I'm saying here. But, like, what is, your contributions towards, like, minority politics? Because I feel like, minority politics should be the center of any sort of, like, Deleuze-Guattarian, praxis or political project, right? Like, the minority is essential to understanding what can make those, emancipations and ruptures possible. Like, it's not about simulating the schizophrenic, it's about realizing that the schizophrenic has value. And the reason why we don't value the schizophrenic is because how schizophrenics essentially interact with, structures of power and things like that, and the diagnosis and all this crap, right? But the same can be said for minorities. That's why ATP moves in the direction of talking less about schizophrenics and more about talking about minorities, right? Because, that same effect that Guattari was observing with the clinical schizophrenic, can be also observed in minorities in a sort of different way, right? And I know that Deleuze and Guattari, especially Deleuze, kind of distance themselves from, the subject of the schizophrenic. Guattari still talks a lot about it within his, like, psychoanalytic works, which are kind of, if you're not, like, going, like, directly on, like, Chimeras, which is, like, the new version of his, which is, like, the current version of what his research journal used to be. Right, and I'll link it in the description. You should check it out if you can read French. It's got some really great stuff in there. Like, if you're not engaging with that and you're not engaging with the amateur translations that have been provided by several people from there, you're probably not going to engage much with, like, the subject of the schizophrenic after the 1980s, because Deleuze kind of got cold feet with dealing with, like, schizos. But still, like, you kind of, like, where is, like, the minority in all of this, right? Like, we're talking all about, like, how important it is to have our facts straight, and, we should be saying the right things about what postmodernism is and what Deleuze and Guattari are saying or whatever, right? But, like, I think part of the problem with having, like, a debate kind of based discourse on this is just that, well, the minority is not really going to come out, is it? Because people are going to, people who are criticizing Deleuze and Guattari are not concerned about what they had to say about minority politics. They don't even care about minority politics in the first place 90% of the time. Like, there are some critical theorists from minority studies who criticize Deleuze and Guattari. But for the most part, you're not interacting with those people, right? You're interacting with some white suit online who's trying to say that, oh, Deleuze and Guattari, they said this or that or the other, and you're like, no, they didn't. Well, what does that have to do with, like, the actual work and process that they involved in, And yeah, making explainer videos is helpful. It's nice, I haven't reviewed them. I haven't reviewed most of the ones on YouTube. I just don't care, right? I'm just not something I really care about that much. I'd rather watch, like, a lecture or read a book if I really wanted to learn any of this stuff, as opposed to, watching what other people are making. But yeah, and I've heard like he's very aggressive to other creators. Like, he was very aggressive to me in the chat, and I was just teasing. Like, I'm just gonna be real with you. I don't like you, Brooks, but I was just fucking around. Like, you just came in and you were, like, already pissed because you decided to tell everybody about how I got banned from your server, like, as if I wasn't laughing the moment that you said that. Like, come on, dude. Stupid shit. All right, come on. You're older than me. Like, why are you acting like you're a child? Like, this is silly, right? And he's and again, I haven't investigated this particular claim, so this is just hearsay. But people were complaining about how a while ago, DGQC was criticizing Acid Horizon for having Patreon only content. And it's like, really, bro? Really? You're mad at people for trying to make a little bit of money off of their hard work? Right now, I'm not gonna, because like the reality of it is, like, let's get real about this whole YouTube thing, right? There's nothing emancipatory politics about talking on YouTube, right, and debating people on YouTube or even making YouTube content, right? My guess is I'm not sure what they're doing with their lives. They may just be a couple of theory heads, right? I don't even really I don't really pay attention to people like Acid Horizon or whatever, right? But like criticizing them for making money on this kind of work, especially when it's not really a lot of money, like it's not like a questionable sponsorship. They just have some content that is, behind a paywall, which isn't that like the entire publishing industry, right? And I'm not going to say it's right, but I just pirate that shit. Like I just pirate it if I really want it. Like, come on, dude. It's not the end of the world. Like, who fucking cares? Let people support the creators that they want to support, okay? Right? If they actually produce something that's wrong or a lie, then criticize them for that. But like them just asking for essentially a very meager amount of money is kind of ridiculous. I don't know how much money Acid Horizon actually makes. They could be like bazillionaires. I don't fucking know. I don't really care. I don't think they're on like the level of something like, like what Chapo was pulling in at one point, things like that. Like they're not like living in a mansion, okay? Like let's get real about this, okay? But here's the thing that really now let me talk about the real reason why I don't really feel comfortable about Brooks, right? And this actually I don't even think he remembers this. This happened in 2021. And this has always been hanging on my mind, and I need to talk about this. I don't know how public he is about this, right? I do know that the videos that he has about these are unlisted. So maybe he's public about it. Maybe he just hides the videos. I don't know. But I want to talk about this, right? And I feel like this is the time. It's sat in my head for the last 4 years. So to give a little bit of a disclaimer, right? The first time I joined DGQC, I was full-fledged in my schizophrenic episode, right? So I was completely nuts in real life, right? And because of this, I was very paranoid, right? I was very paranoid of new people. I was scoping out people, but I was also extremely paranoid. So like, new people, really scary to me, right? And, as a result, I was more likely to interpret somebody who may have done something innocent as like a paranoid gesture, but this has always kind of sat weird with me, right? So essentially, Brooks realized, once he realized I was a programmer and a video game developer, indie game developer, he kind of pulled me aside, right? And he told me about how, he's very interested in like Deleuze and the user interface, which is something that I was very interested in, right? I'm very interested in how Guattari connects the user interface, right? And so I kind of let him talk about what his ideas were, and I believe he talked about this in public, right? So I feel like, I don't think it was all just DMs shit, right? I think it was in the server publicly, right? And he told me about how he used to work for Lucasfilms, which I have heard he's pretty open about, right? And he was trying to produce this like project, right, where it was like an AR project, like augmented reality, where he would use like VR headsets along with like these scenes that are composed of like physical objects that you can touch and interact with while you're having your VR experience, and kind of like correlate it with like experiences of the Syrian war, which I don't think that sat very well with me, right? Making political propaganda through AR technology, I'm not a fan, right? And, he was talking about how he was getting funded by some pretty big names and things like that. And I think it was called Rhizome Productions or something, right? And look, Brooks, I'm fine if you've moved on from this point, right? But the problem is that Deleuze already has a problem with tech people coming in and reading, how can I use this to manipulate people with media. Like, that's why BuzzFeed exists, okay? Like, let's get this out of the way. Like, I don't think that that particular approach is, the right way to go about, talking about these issues. I don't think it's the right way to kind of like, actualize a sort of political praxis. And the reason why is because of something that I had understood all the way back then, even, that I called the user interface hierarchy, right? Which is just the fact that, users are forced to interact with an interface that they have no control over, right? So when you're making these kinds of projects, like, yes, they have incredible power to portray, certain kinds of activities and stuff like that. And even more so than like video games, but like what you were ignoring in the production of those things, which you seemed to either, like, I can't remember, okay, I could be wrong in the timeline on this because I was schizophrenic, give me a break. Maybe you had already moved away from it at this time, or maybe you were just at the tail end of promoting it. I feel like COVID really I feel like COVID was the real reason why this project didn't continue, not because you had second doubts about what you were doing. And like, I think it's at least worth addressing to, like, just people in general, what was going on with that. Like, I think you should, like, describe your transition from that kind of thinking, because ultimately, what I see here, right, is, somebody who is making a new kind of media project, except now instead of making something that is like something that directs your feelings directly with like a VR augmented reality like kind of experience, I see somebody who is, creating a sort of cinema through these debates, right? And again, like, I'm not saying that your political project has no capacity for any real, emancipatory power, but I feel that, if you are truly concerned about that emancipatory power, you should be concerned about what you are creating and what you are producing. And, both of these examples demonstrate to me that you're not really interested in necessarily producing that emancipation, right? You're not interested in, like, getting people to, like, actually do something, right? Other than talk about how you dunked on some guy. Like, I'm sure that when you get wind of this video, you're gonna be like, oh, Punish Felix says X, Y, and Z. And what is the end result of that? What is the end result of that behavior? Like, is it going to free people from their chains? Is it going to improve their lives? Is it going to do anything about the current regime that is spreading across, Western nations, that is, like, impacting minorities? Like, no. You're just getting a bunch of fucking young people all like, woo, let's go, you beat him up, man. Like, that was, like, the thing that pissed me off, I think, the most about this whole stupid debate. Like, yeah, of course, Stephen Burns is just some fucking liberal who's going around and, defending his castle because his castle is where his paycheck's at, right? And to be quite frank, I don't think you even are gonna impact that paycheck that much, even though he literally dropped a complete fucking bomb in that fucking debate where he was just like, yeah, I just made that video quickly because I needed the money, right? Like, yeah, that was crazy. But I don't think it's actually going to have the impact that you think it did. I think that all it's going to impact is your followers finding a new person to say, hey, that guy's a dumb idiot. Oh, theory and philosophy said something wrong 4 to 7 years ago about Deleuze and Guattari. Whoa, they're so wrong about that. Well, what are you going to do about it? I don't see any of these people actually fucking doing anything. And I'm not saying that you should expose all of your, like, online organizing community or all your organizing and shit like that. That would be completely stupid and self-sabotaging, right? I don't really care about what you're doing. I don't really want to know about what you're doing in that respect. What I'm asking you is more so, what kind of machine do you think you're producing, and what can you do to improve it so that my machines don't have to hear about people flinging around everywhere saying, hey, this guy's an annoying asshole and he says things that are wrong all the fucking time. Right? I don't want to deal with that. I have had to deal with this for the last month. I seriously don't even know what the hell he's saying even warrant this constant stream of what the hell is wrong with the DGQC server, what the hell is wrong with Brooks, why do these people constantly say wrong things all the time, why are these people so aggressive, why are they fucking assholes. I'm not saying that we all have to be friends and we all have to agree with each other. That's naive and stupid. But what I am saying is that we should probably, if we're going to be serious about anything, we should be making a community that takes those things seriously, as opposed to stupid petty shit like debates and getting one-ups on people. Like, what, you're like, what, 38, 39, 40? Like, come on, it's not fucking 2009 anymore. We're not fucking having stupid debates with, like, people who think that, like, the fucking giants are real. Like, get real, dude. That's all I gotta say about that.